Hello, and welcome back to Sharing a Chapter a Day. This is Do, Ra, me, and today I will be reading Chapter 110 of Engagement in Peril by Dara Ado Sup. Chapter 110 is titled Payback is a Mother Scorned. That evening, her brotherly husband returned home from work at the local wharf, where he was a dock worker, unloading and loading gear, supplies, and goods onto ships. Lilith acted as though her day went normally like any other day. She had prepared supper for the family to enjoy and have their usual family conversation together at the dining table, asking Delilah how her day went at school and what she dealt with the day at the clinic where she worked as a nurse and how Robert's work went well. How his work went as well. Robert didn't think anything out of the ordinary then. He went about his evening as usual, having dinner and watching a little television, and before bed, having his ball sucked, gargled, and played with by Lilith. After a quick fuck and release all over her chest and face, Robert fell fast asleep without bothering to clean up his gooey mess. With her eyes wide open, Lilith lying there next to the man who defiled their only miracle child, Lilith angrily further and fuel her thoughts of the plan she would do and steps she would take to make it so. She knew what she wanted, and what she wanted was revenge for her miracle baby. She wanted to see Robert suffer for his deception and molestation upon their child. She wanted the end of Robert. Lilith began. As day and weeks went on, she seemed more. She made sure to keep Delilah away from her husband and kept him busy with her instead. She was willing to sacrifice her own body and soul to keep her child safe from Robert. She began to attune to more of his sexual needs and desire. She pretended to enjoy having his dirty genital up inside of her, in her rectum, in her ass, in her mouth. She pretended to enjoy giving him head and was eager to please him whenever he wasn't in the mood. At times, she had Delilah stay at the neighbor's place to keep him away from her. She made excuses that Delilah was having slumber parties and such while she put her plans of ending him into motion. Unknown to Robert, Lilith had bought a second life insurance policy on him besides the one they had from his work and joint custody and such, and she made her plans into motion. And she put her plans into motion then. What Robert didn't know what Robert didn't know that Lilith was slowly feeding him some portions of poison with his food, the very food she prepared for him on a daily basis. Lilith was mixing small bits of rat poison, chlorine, and mercury she had stolen from work and was placing them into Robert's meal, dishes, and drinks. He thought nothing of it. Several times he seemed ill, but he got over it quickly with a little an acid here and there. She was slowly killing him off from the inside out. Practically, she was boiling away his once normal organs and intestine from within. Months went by, the family had their usual meal together, and all seemed normal as before. After a while, Robert began to have health issues. He was always ill and seemed restless from all the missed work he had to take off because of his sudden, unknown change of health. After having missed so much work, his company he worked for decided to release him from work for medical reasons and too much time away from work. Lilith told him it was okay, that she would work longer hours to support the family while he collected an unemployment pension from his work and estate. Lilith began to put Delilah at sitters and daycare while she tended to her sick husband's side, mainly just to keep her away from the grabbing hands of her father. Lilith pretended to take care of Robert while he was ill at home. She fed him soup, meals, and juice that was often laced with poison and mercury. He didn't think the wiser, and he didn't want to go to the doctor since he had his wife who was a nurse and she was taking care of him at home. He thought that was all good. Although Lilith, being mindful, suggested that Robert go see a physician for his illness, he refused, fearing the worst. He thought the small amount of poison that Lilith fed Robert was so minute that it was undetectable or untraceable, even with precision autopsy. She knew what she was doing, and she wanted him to suffer for what he had done. After some time, Lilith no longer allowed Robert to touch her in any form. She made the excuse that he was too sick to perform and that it might lead to further health problems if they were to fuck around. She didn't want his rotten hands and finger up inside her anymore, and she was glad to see him suffering for his past misdeed against her and their miracle child. After months of being terrifyingly sick at home and not being able to take the pain and anguish anymore, Robert asked Lilith to drive him to the local emergency room for treatment. She eagerly agreed and drove him there. He was evaluated by the emergency room staff and was determined to be critically ill from unknown causes. All they saw was that his inside wasn't right, and as though it was eating away at itself. He was admitted up to the ICU ward for further treatment and evaluations. Lilith asked the ICU staff if she could stay beside her husband's bedside for the night, and they allowed her to do so. Having been familiar with the hospital setting and makeup of supplies and medical cabinets and such, Lilith put her final plan into effect. This night would be the end of him, she rejoiced. That evening, while her brotherly husband, Robert, was resting with several IVs into his arms, veins, receiving painkillers and antibiotics to help him with his critical ailment, and away from the eyes of the nurses and doctors in the ICU, Lilith took a syringe and a needle out of her dark, large brown canvas purse, assembled the two pieces together, uncapped the needle, and pulled back the plunger to absorb a syringe full of air. Deviously she looked back and forth all around, making sure no one was watching what she was about to do. Lilith walked up beside her husband's bedside, grabbed a handful of the clear IV tube, and injected the syringe full of air into one of the IV tube nipple, administering the reserve air bubble directly into her brotherly husband's vein. She watched as all the air bubble from the syringe in the fluid tube traveled toward his arm and into his vein. Her face seemed to glow with a slight grin. She knew that this would and could possibly kill him once it caused an air embolism. She had delivered several air bubbles into Robert's circulation via the central IV and hoped that it will end up blocking a vessel or two. And she had it planned out all along when she wanted to see happen to him, what she would do to him. She had injected the central IV with air bubble. She was hoping that it will cause damage to the pulmonary circulation to stop Robert's heart directly and cause him his death instantly. She no longer loved or longed for her brother and her husband, Robert. He had damaged their miracle baby, and he deserved what he was getting. This was vengeful. This was vengeance, she thought, and in God's eye, it's an eye for an eye. Silently, Lilith prayed to God, and was thankful that this will soon come to end. And in God's name I pray, she whispered to herself while she's sitting there beside the dying bastard that molested their baby girl. Lilith knew that the air bubble in the vein and heart is very difficult to diagnose or trace. Therefore, she was in the clear for any wrongdoing and could collect on the life insurance she had on her husband without being ruled as a homicide. She knew that what she was doing and she had it all planned out. She was conniving. She would live the rest of her life with her miracle baby girl now, teaching and molding and pampering the liar to be like her, taking advantage of stupid and ignorant fool like Shin Shin. I sometimes wonder, could Shin Shin death be the result of these two conniving bitches? Perhaps they had committed murder and homicide against my dear, lovely brother Shin Shin as well. Maybe that's how they killed him off as well. Lilith stood there and watched coldly while Robert died in his sleep from the air embolism in his vein and heart. Within minutes after the administration of the air bubble into his body, the screeching critical code blue alarm went off in the nurse's monitoring area. All at once, a group of nurses and doctors ran toward his room and bedside, trying to revive and administer necessary life-saving procedure upon his limp body then. Lilith pretended to be worried, assuming that she awoke from all the commotion, frantically screaming and asking what was going on regarding the noise and all the commotion. Ignoring her question and inquiry, the medical personnel and professional checked his airway, breathing, veins and such, but there was nothing to do for him now. It was too late. Only, but let him die. The head doctor announced his time of death at 11:48 p.m., and Lilith was told that there was nothing more they can do for her late husband, Robert. They apologized for his passing and gave her a few minutes alone with him. Lilith pretended to be overwhelmed, mournful and distraught from his sudden death, and after a few long moments she seemed to regain her composure and talked to the attending doctors and nurses about her late husband and what she needed to do, how she should tell her young baby girl at her home about her husband's passing, and how she could go about notifying the insurance company about his death and passing. She was having questions for the doctors and nurses then, like the good wife. She knew all the answers to her planned question already. She just wanted to make sure she had a solid alibi about the whole deal if something was to go wrong with her plan of killing her brotherly husband and collecting on the life insurance and policy she had coming to her and Delilah soon after. She was good. Damn good. Damn good she was. She had it all planned out. Such a conniving bitch she was. That's how she and Delilah got Shin Shin too, I think. She and her conniving daughter planned it all out on how to kill off Shin Shin without anyone catching on or to think the wiser. After pretending to tearfully mourn for her husband at the ICU unit where he died, and having been told that his body won't be released until a proper autopsy and an accompanying document was generated of his passing, Lilith drove home that evening, confident, happy, and relieved, rejoiced, and with her smile enlarged from ear to ear, she drove quietly toward her home. Her long painstaking plan had worked, and she would soon have the money from the life insurance policies for her and her miracle baby to live off for a while. She picked up the ladder from her neighbor's home that was sitting her for Lilith, and while with her sleeping baby in her cradled arms, she went into her home and put the ladder to bed in her own bed, feeling secure and safe from her dead brotherly husband, unwarranted touch for her child. Afterward, Lilith tended to the kitchen, cleaning and throwing away the trash that accumulated while she tended to her sick husband's ailment these past months. Around 3 a.m. the next morning, Lilith put herself to bed in her own bedroom and slept soundly, worrying about nothing and glad that it was all over and done with. She smilingly fell fast asleep with her hands clutched in prayer position, as though she was thanking God for what had happened earlier that evening. The next morning, around 10:11 a.m. or so, Lilith awoke to the Records television sound of Saturday morning cartoon, as she watched her miracle daughter sitting there watching cartoon while having a handful of Cocoa Puffs stuffed into her face and mouth. Lilith interrupted Delilah and said, "Good morning, baby. Did you sleep well?" Delilah took a quick look back toward her mother and returned to the television set and stated, "Yup." Lilith walked up to her child from behind, kneeled down and gave her a long, heavy embrace and kissed her deeply upon Delilah's cheek. "It's gonna be better from now on for both of us, baby," she calmly stated into Delilah's once innocent ears. Ignoring her mother's comment, Delilah went about her business of viewing her favorite cartoon as her mother went into the kitchen to make some brunch for the both of them. While she mixed the eggs and flour together in the kitchen and sausage sizzling off the frying pan nearby, she yelled out toward Delilah, "Baby, you want to go do something today? Like go to the park or to the beach or something?" Without answering and lost in her own anime fascination, Delia pretended not to hear her mother's question. That didn't bother Lily one bit. She went about her business too and finished preparing the morning's brunch. Once the meal was finished, she gently demanded that Lila put out 2 plates for the both of them at the kitchen table. Shortly after the command to set up the table for mealtime, Delia quickly went about getting the dishes and plate for the meal. Routinely, she had pulled out 3 sets of bowl, dishes, and plates, and 3 plastic glasses for juice and milk, one for each member of the family. Without realizing then, Delilah had set up the table for 3 occupants. Lilith saw that her daughter had done and calmly said, "Daddy won't be joining us today, baby. He won't be joining us today or any other day for a while, baby." Delilah didn't bother asking any further question why. She went about stuffing the sausage, eggs, and pancake into her mouth while munching away at the delicious meal that her mother had prepared. As Lilith looked on and watched her innocent child, hoping for a better future for the two of them, she wondered to herself how she would go about telling her daughter the truth. She would eventually have to tell her something, sometime. She only hoped that time will come when her on her deathbed before she dies and meets her maker. Hey baby, when you're done eating, go wash up and put on something nice, okay? We're gonna go and celebrate today. Let's catch a movie or two and get you some of your favorite toys, okay? Lilith excitedly and calmly stated toward Delilah. Shaking her head in agreement, Delilah continued to jab the food down her impressionable young throat. Lilith ate slowly and enjoyed her meal for the first time in a long time. Slowly she cut the sausage and slowly she took one bite at a time from the metal fork as she smiled and smirked her way through the entire meal. No more worries about her miracle baby being sexually abused by her brotherly husband. She had found joy in her resolve, and she accepted that. She felt free now in a long time. After clearing the table and soaking the used dishes in one of the sink tubs filled with soapy water, warm water, Lilith gave a bath to her 11-year-old daughter, sponging and washing all the places that her dead husband and brother had touched. She wanted her daughter to be cleansed of all his filth and residue odor. She wanted to start anew for her daughter, for the both of them. While she washed and scrubbed her daughter heavily at some part more than other, she told her daughters repeatedly that she loved her and no one else was gonna love her as much as her own mother, and that the two of them would be the best of friends. No matter where Delilah went or what she did, Lilith would be there beside her and watch over her. This she promised to her once miracle baby girl. While washing and scrubbing her baby girl, Lilith too got into the bathtub and began to wash herself. She taught her daughter on how to wash their private spot and parts and told this to her daughter. Only allow this part to be touched and poked at by someone who can give you things, like money and things you want. It's not free for anyone, baby. Be sure to get something in return for letting them touch you there, okay? Do you understand, baby? As Lilith jabbed with her left hand forefinger at her daughter's vaginal area. Delilah, going along with what her mother said, shook her head up and down and murmured in agreement, "Uh-huh." The two stayed in the bathtub for several more minutes to finish washing up and then dried off and got dressed and went out for the rest of the day, shopping and having fun outdoors. Just the two of them, mother and daughter, like best friends, and changing their ways of life from now on. From that moment on, Delilah began to follow in her mother's footsteps, learning to be conniving, whoring, being unfaithful, having a cold heart, and using men only to gain financial and material means. What bitches! What succubus! And my beloved Shinshin didn't realize that Lilith and Delilah were those two type of people. Then, when he first met them, he had been played and hooked all along since his initial meeting with Lilith at Grant Elementary during that summer testing session, when she fascinated him with stories of her anime-loving daughter then. Shinshin was a sucker then, and soon after, it was too late to turn back, and I wasn't able to save him from his misery, and fall from grace then as well. I'm sorry, Shinshin. Thank you for listening. This is the end of chapter 110. Be on the lookout for chapter 111, titled Delilah's Maturation. This is Do, Ra, Me, and I'll see you later. Thank you.